Today I have 8 metrics that I'm gonna compare kickboxing and jiu-jitsu to see which one wins. If you walked up to any man and asked them, hey brother, would you like to know how to fight? 100% of them would say yes. There is no world in which not knowing how to fight is better than knowing how to fight. However, stats show about only 5% of people have enough martial arts experience to be able to properly defend themselves if it gets down to it. And I believe the main reason everyone wants to know how to fight, but only about 5% do, is because they don't know where to start, or the fact that starting is scary. Right? So in this video, I'm gonna help you get started and help you decide whether jiu-jitsu or kickboxing is gonna be the best place to start. Now, the reason I chose these two is because number one, that is what I train, right? That is what I started with training. And number two, this is gonna be the most practical and effective self-defense for striking, which is kickboxing. And it's gonna be the most practical and effective self-defense for grappling, which is gonna be jiu-jitsu. You can also make an argument for wrestling there, but I didn't wrestle, I did jiu-jitsu, so that's why I'm covering these. So today I have 8 metrics that I'm gonna compare kickboxing and jiu-jitsu to see which one wins. Starting off with effectiveness in a fight, right? As far as kickboxing goes, kickboxing for a striking art is extremely effective because it includes the kicks, the legs. If you get into an altercation, right, and you use boxing, you use fist fighting, number one, even if you're trained, you have the risk of someone throwing a bomb and knocking you out. Number two, if you do knock the guy out and get him with some good punches, your hand's probably gonna be broken, right? I've only gotten to one street fight in my entire life. I'm not proud of it. I hit the guy at the top of the head right here, broke my hand, my whole hand was swollen for a couple weeks, was out of martial arts for a while, and that might have been more damage than actually happened to his head, right? So that's why I don't love the striking with your hands as far as self-defense. However, kicks, right? If you learn how to kick well, you can kick to the leg, you can kick to the head. Specifically, I think a leg kick is gonna be the most offensive because it neutralizes the target. They're not used to it. They don't know how to defend it unless they've been kickboxing for a while. And if you've been kickboxing for a while, you know how to throw a badass leg kick and your shins are conditioned to where it would really hurt. Now you take jiu-jitsu on the other hand. Jiu-jitsu is going to be even more effective than kickboxing with self-defense. Take an altercation where you're gonna fight with someone, it's a one-on-one and you know jiu-jitsu, right? The guy has maybe 1 to 2 punches to knock you out, and if he's untrained, he's unlikely to do so. If you grab a hold of him, there's almost nothing he can do unless you are not very skilled or he's way, way bigger than you. However, if you have great jiu-jitsu experience, you can usually shoot pretty high above your weight class in a one-on-one fight. Also, take a situation where someone else is being harassed and you have to neutralize the harasser. Right? The nice thing about jiu-jitsu is you can control the situation very well. You can get the person in a situation where they can't move any of their limbs, they're in a chokehold, you can choke them out, put them to sleep if you need to, versus throwing punches where they're throwing back, maybe you break something, maybe you hit them, maybe you knock them out hard enough to where they hit their head on the ground and they die, right? It's just a lot less controlled. So as far as self-defense goes, jiu-jitsu is gonna beat this one. However, learning kickboxing is also gonna be effective against the untrained. Next one is gonna be the type of physique and fitness you're gonna build. This is a huge reason people get into martial arts is because you build a badass physique, right? No matter which one you do. For kickboxing, and I'll put a picture of both of my physiques when I was doing jiu-jitsu versus kickboxing, you're going to get extremely lean and shredded, right? You're gonna have a very athletic, lean build, right? You can look at the professional kickboxers. Usually they're not real jacked up unless they're heavyweight and they're jacked, but these guys are lean, 6-pack abs, usually stronger legs, you know, sometimes bigger shoulders from holding your arms up so much, but chest isn't gonna be huge, arms aren't gonna be huge, back isn't gonna be huge, but they look like athletes, right? So for weight loss, for getting shredded, for getting that lean fighter look, kickboxing is gonna be great there. For jiu-jitsu, there's a lot more strength and muscular endurance and output being used, right? You are grabbing the person, you're pushing, you're pulling, you're using your legs, you're using all of it, especially grip strength too. So you're gonna get a nice strong neck, nice strong traps. Your back is gonna be a huge one. Your legs should get some growth. Chest, not huge. Arms, fair, medium, pretty equal with everything else. Your core is gonna get a lot stronger and more pronounced, and you are also just building a lot of muscular endurance and muscle density. And so the look of jiu-jitsu guys ranges anywhere from, you know, a little chubby, honestly, to like Gordon Ryan, for example, like bodybuilder looking dudes. Also athletes, but like less explosive looking, more strong and condensed. Right? So for kickboxing, a lot more cardio, fighter look, think Brad Pitt from Fight Club, whereas jiu-jitsu, more muscle density, more muscular endurance, bigger neck, bigger traps, bigger back. Both are really great looks. However, the best one is gonna be the gym. In jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, you're simply not creating the tension that you are creating in the gym that gives your muscle that stimulus to grow. So I do recommend for people who are insecure in their physiques, right, who feel like their physique are they're either too fat or too skinny, to do the gym first, right? If you're not already going to the gym is gonna be something easier to get into for most people than martial arts. And so get a physique of a baseline you are confident in, right? And then throw in the martial arts. That being said, if you wanna go straight into martial arts, all power to you. This is just the most practical way I've seen for people who haven't gotten into the gym yet and don't have a physique they want. Number 3 is gonna be the learning curve, which means how long does it take or how fast can you get good at these martial arts. For kickboxing, The thing about kickboxing is most people have a base, right? Most people start off with some sort of instinct of knowing how to punch, having a stance, being able to throw their leg out, being able to throw their hand out. Some people more than others, but it's very rare that someone doesn't have some sort of self-awareness when it comes to throwing punches. And so it's gonna be a little bit easier to start because you have this base. Whereas jiu-jitsu, you can go in there and feel like a complete fool, know how to do absolutely nothing. Like you'll stand in front of a person and be like, what do I even do here? Versus some people, like wrestlers or myself, I had experience wrestling with my brother my entire life, have some sort of mat awareness, right? So where, okay, if this person does this, just naturally my instinct tells me to do this, and you're just a little more comfortable with it. That being said, you still have zero awareness on how to actually do submissions, etc. So there's a lot to learn. I'd say how fast you progress in kickboxing is gonna be a little bit slower just because the ceiling is not that high. With kickboxing, my coach gave me this analogy actually. It's like sharpening a sword, right? You have 8 limbs: hands, elbows, knees, and feet. Right? There's only so many combinations you can do, etc., and so many ways you can throw a punch. It just comes down to the simple mechanics, or actually complex mechanics, of making it snappier, making it more energy efficient, right? Making it harder, getting better at combos, and it's slightly sharpening. Whereas jiu-jitsu, every class you're learning a new move. The ceiling of how far you can go is much higher, right? For example, if you know nothing about jiu-jitsu and then you learn some headlocks and you learn some arm bars, then you learn how to defend yourself in guard, how to do some takedowns. You went from ground 0 to ground 10. Whereas you start in kickboxing at ground 3 and then maybe in the same time frame, you go to 6. 4 is gonna be character building. This is one of the best benefits of getting into martial arts. You become a better man in all areas, simple as that. As far as which art builds more character, let me break them down. So kickboxing is going to be a lot easier overall than jiu-jitsu. And of course, based on your coach, based on your training style, you can make it harder for yourself. You can put yourself through hell in kickboxing if you want, but just for beginners, it's gonna be a little easier. Versus jiu-jitsu is going to be a lot more humbling, a lot more difficult. There's gonna be a lot of tapping on another man saying, please don't kill me, sir. I know you could end my life right now, but please don't do it, right? Obviously that's not gonna happen, but that's what a submission is okay, you got me. If we kept going, my arm would break, you choke me out, make me pass out, etc. right? And so it's extremely humbling. And like I said, you don't have as much of a baseline knowledge to start off. You are starting from ground 0. But those humbling experiences build a lot of character, right? And so if you show up day after day to jiu-jitsu, you're getting pummeled, and eventually you start to work your way up, you start to show up, eventually you start to work your way up, defend yourself more, you're not getting tapped as much, now you're starting to tap other people, right? The character built of being able to get past that first phase is gonna be absolutely massive. In addition, I would say it takes a little bit more discipline, paying attention in class, dedication to get good at jiu-jitsu, which also builds character. So character building, I would say, especially for a beginner, jiu-jitsu is gonna take the win on that one. Number 5 is gonna be enjoyment. How fun is the art? This is highly gonna be variable based on the person, but it's a big factor in whether you continue to show up and whether you go for the first time in the first place, right? My experience, people in the beginning generally like kickboxing, right? Because again, you go in and you feel like you already have a base. You can hold your own with the more advanced guys. And so when you're good at something, you generally tend to like it a little more. However, when you progress in something, you tend to like it more too. And so that's what I see a lot of people fall in love with jiu-jitsu, is because they progress fast. They're like, I really suck at this, but then they show up the next day and they're like, dang, I'm already so much better. I already like doubled my skill in a week. Okay, you start to get addicted to that, and people start to fall in love. And so this one, I would say it depends on you. Personally, I have found kickboxing to be a little bit more fun, especially on days when I have high energy, I'm flowing, just because you move around a little more, right? I love that feeling of moving, bouncing around, tapping people, but jiu-jitsu also has that same feeling of like flow, right? Especially if you have a good training partner, that flow state can be super, super enjoyable. Which will take me right into number 6, which is sparring and rolling. Rolling is a word for jiu-jitsu when you go against an opponent, a teammate, and you do jiu-jitsu, right? You try to submit each other. And sparring is the term for kickboxing, right? When you'll spar against each other, the timer will go on, and you're not going 100%, you're not seeing who can knock each other out faster. You're going at an agreed pace ideally, but it is a one-on-one. Now, a big difference between both of these is that in kickboxing, you can't go 100%, or you can, but there'll be brain damage pretty fast, right? Versus jiu-jitsu, you can go 90 to 100% and be fine, right? You don't do that every time. Actually, you rarely do it. It's more like, 70 to 80%, but you're just grappling. And so if someone gets a chokehold, you just tap. With kickboxing, you do have to be much more controlled with your punches, control with your kicks. And that's why it's important when you join a gym, you are training with the experienced guys. It's much safer to train with an experienced guy, as long as his ego isn't big, than someone who is new, because they don't know how to pull their punches. So that's a big pro of jiu-jitsu, I would say, where you can go higher intensity. But if you have 2 experienced guys on either jiu-jitsu or kickboxing, it could look like you're going full force, but you're really flowing. Like you're really very controlled, know whether you would hurt the other person or not. And so that's why the better you get at it, the more fun it becomes. Whereas beginners, definitely kickboxing is gonna be more fun for beginners in my opinion. But both are very fun, and it's just gonna come down to preference and skill level, which I think it's great to try both. Number 7 is going to be injury risk, right? This is a big reason people do not try the sport. Again, everyone wants to know how to fight. Why don't people do it? Some people are scared, right? They're scared they're gonna get injured. This is going to depend highly on the gym, guys. The gym I go to, we have never had like a serious injury in all my 3 years of training there. Not once, right? We've had some cuts, some people got elbowed on accident, maybe some toes been stepped on, you know, some bruises, but we've had nothing serious because the gym has a culture of respect and self-control. All right, you do not want to go into a gym where people are just banging every time, unless that's what you want. If you want to just bang, hit as hard as you can, have a bunch of brain damage, not actually get better, that's fine, that's up to you, but most people don't want that. And so I would really look into the reviews of a gym, go try the gym out, see what it's like, see if the coach is welcoming, see if the people are welcoming, see if it's got a good vibe. But as far as the two arts, kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, in my opinion, is actually going to be a lot safer than jiu-jitsu. Injuries in kickboxing are gonna be little scratches, maybe bruises, maybe your shins hurt a little bit, as long as you're not sparring crazy hard, versus the injuries in jiu-jitsu could potentially be very bad. For example, someone could fall on your ankle, or your knee could get twisted, or someone could accidentally have a leg lock and pull it too hard. You know, most of these should be accidents. You shouldn't be rolling with people who do this purposely anyways, but it's just possible, and it's a lot harder to control in jiu-jitsu. Again, it's rare, but it is possible. And so I would say, for example, if I had a D1 football player who had a huge game in a couple weeks, I would rather see him do some kickboxing than risk the injury of something like jiu-jitsu. That being said, I would say the long-term risk is gonna be higher for kickboxing just because of the constant impact of your joints. And if you are training hard, getting hit in the head a lot, you know, there could be some brain damage there. But again, I would find a gym that does not like to train like that because we need our brains and we don't want them damaged. Number 8 is gonna be confidence, right? If there's one thing that builds your confidence out of everything, every practice, right, one thing, it's gonna be martial arts more than anything else, right? Combination of the community, right? Being able to show up even when it's hard, knowing that you can actually defend yourself now. Physique you build, the endorphins you get, getting shit off your mind, it's all gonna build confidence, specifically actually knowing how to defend yourself. As far as which one builds more confidence total, I'm gonna say jiu-jitsu, right? The reason being, you have more of a safety in your body because you know that if shit goes down, you have a higher chance of succeeding. And also the character building aspect, right? Being able to show up even when it's hard and getting past that beginning phase builds a crazy amount of confidence. That being said, kickboxing is gonna build an insane amount of confidence as well. But this is a comparison video, and I would say jiu-jitsu has the W on that. So here's what to consider when choosing between jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. Number 1, the gyms in my area, right? I did this right when I enjoyed, and I'm glad I did. Look at all the gyms in your area, see what they provide, see the kickboxing gyms, the jiu-jitsu gyms, how far are they? What are the reviews? What's the price of these places, right? This will help you make a decision, and choose one where there's not a lot of 1-star reviews from people being treated like shit. So that's number 1. And following along with that, if you have a buddy who's already into the martial arts, tag along with him. That'll make it so much easier to start. Of course, he'll be your training partner, show you the ropes. I love doing this with my friends. I've done this with countless number of my friends who now still train to this day and got all the benefits I have listed. This is gonna be go through that list I just said, right? Based on the benefits, which ones do you want more in your life, right? Do you want that character building more? Do you want that better self-defense? What physique sounds better? What sparring sounds more fun, right? And combine that with your will to start. If you want just an easier path to get into it, I would say kickboxing for most people is gonna be slightly easier, but it also depends on what's on your mind, right? If you're thinking about jiu-jitsu all the time, you know, you like to watch jiu-jitsu better, you like the grappling just sounds more interesting to you, start with that. Versus if kickboxing is like you watch the kickboxing, you love it, you wanna be able to do it, right? That's gonna be the best bet. Overall, brother, just pick one and go. It doesn't matter which one you pick, because once you pick one and once you start, you're gonna get all the benefits. You're likely gonna fall in love. Your life is going to level up in multiple different ways, but you just gotta start, right? To become that 5% of individuals who actually can defend themselves instead of the 95% who want to defend themselves but are too scared to make that first decision. Don't let it be you. Help you get started. Find a gym that sounds good. Look up if they have a free trial, which almost all gyms do. I'd probably say every single gym does, right? Call them if you have any questions and say, what's a good time for a beginner to come in? That's what I did. You could say, hey, I'm a beginner. I'm looking to get into MMA or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. What's a good time to come? This way you're able to hear their voice, ask them any questions, make sure that everything's good, you're going to the correct class, and then just show up, brother, right? Just show up. These places are businesses, right? It's in their best investment that you have a good experience, that you return, you don't get your ass kicked, right? Or else they would not have a full gym, right? They got to make money somehow. And so you are a client, you are a customer. It's in their best interest to take care of you. So keep that in mind. And depending on where you're at in your self-development journey, the more urgency I have for you, you know, if you're not in the greatest shape yet and you haven't even gotten in the gym, you're too scared to do that or don't know how, then I would start with that, right? Get a coach if you need. For my guys, I have them get in pretty good shape first, and then I will find them a gym. We'll call the coach, see the vibe, see if it's a good fit for them, see when when a beginner should go and get them all set up with it right after they have the physique they like. With that being said, if you want me as your brother along this journey to your highest self, I am taking one-on-one clients. You can go ahead and book a call with me in the description or in my bio. I would love to speak with you and possibly get started on this journey working together. But other than that, brother, it's time. All right, go get after it. Love you guys. Until next video. Peace.